Yeah, no, the Zoom invite was on in the emails and on the agenda. And we've got a good view of the side of your forehead.
I was gonna say, not anymore.
So you have to admit people.
Oh, right. I forgot about that.
Oh, I can-
Would it be easier if I just go? No, it won't make a difference at this moment unless more people show up.
Even get you a
There's other
different
chairs.
view.
That's what he-
Like really powerful. Like, look, I
Who
can make,
requested to
I can
come
make-
in?
I can make the participants vomit. Right.
Did somebody block
Yvonne
them
did.
in? Did I see it?
She did, I let her in.
No,
Vomit.
he was moving it
Oh,
around.
Yep.
okay. Ivana, all right, there we go.
We may not be, we probably aren't in
We have a
what's the
password
mode for.
I-
It's over here.
That's beyond.
Yeah.
Okay, look, I can get on the admit button and click the mouse, okay? That's as far as things go with me.
We want to be a gallery view.
But you need a different,
Yeah, if we,
I'll jump up and do the admitting.
view, gallery. There we
There
go.
you go.
This way we'll be able to see everybody all at once as they come in.
Do we need, how many members? do we need?
3,
Oh, that's all, oh, okay,
yeah,
so we're good.
BCA is
Oh,
weird.
Oh, yeah, well.
Ivana's cloned herself.
It's the Board of Adjustment that's,
The Board of Abatement that's,
basement is, yeah, the lengthy one.
Yeah.
With all the appeals and stuff. created
Well,
special
I guess that's
quorum rules
the
for-
theory behind having more people.
well, and there are actually 2 quorum rules
Oh.
for Board of Abatement. You either need half plus 1 of the whole body, or you need a quorum of the council, the assessor, and the treasurer. So you either need 6 people or 12,
Oh, okay.
depending on who they are.
Well, needless
Hey,
to
Michael.
say, you can't do site business with 6 people.
Well, that's because you don't do site
Yeah,
visits with
Abatement,
BOA.
yeah.
So,
I don't know if that's a computer that's trying hard to connect to our. don't think
yeah,
it's
I don't
ours.
know. No, it's not. It's her. Hey, Ivana, can you hear us?
I can hear you, but I don't think you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Oh, you can. Well,
Yeah.
it's, I'm having all sorts of little dialogue boxes coming up.
You've got 2 boxes up, Ivana, so I'm gonna have Carol boot one of your boxes, and I think that might be your issue. So
Yeah.
give that second, yeah, give that one the boot, and she should be okay. Just remove down at the end.
Oh, there we go.
The ultimate power trip, Carol.
Kicking people out of the Zoom.
No, don't report her.
Can you still hear us, Ivana?
Yes, I can hear you.
And we can hear you. That's
Yeah.
good.
I think
Okay.
you're good.
But I only have part of my screen showing. I have this dialogue box saying Zoom meetings. Hang on while Windows reports the problem. Well, let me cancel that. Cancel.
Well, as long as you can hear us, that's the important thing.
Yeah, we can't see you. Well, do you have a camera? Maybe you don't have a camera. Maybe that's the,
Oh, I have a camera. Oh, there we go. Okay. Okay. Now let's see this.
you gotta start your
Oh,
audio.
here she comes. Here she comes. Maybe.
Is the power on at your house?
No, it's just an old laptop.
I'm just picking on you. You're fine.
That's all right. We don't have a visual, but we've got you audio. There you
There we
go.
Now you're on.
Woo.
There he is.
Whoa, that's right.
Phew.
Okay, so I'll leave it to you to let more people in.
Yeah,
if
yeah,
they-
yeah.
If they show up. Hey, Patty.
And we'll do that. We actually will likely need.
Yeah,
more
we're gonna need-
chairs.
Everybody.
Oh.
Howdy all.
No, go ahead. I'm just waiting to admit.
It is not, sir.
Hey.
Another
There's been a request, so
Come up right there
we'll
and set that chair up. You wanna- yeah.
I'm not gonna be in the way.
No, no, that was, I was just setting them up. That's, so, no, 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 you're fine.
Right over that, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, we bagged it after.
She could. I mean, if we wanted to do it, that's.
That's a strong work ethic.
Okay.
The chairman can say, you know, does everybody mind if you take this up first? Hello, everybody.
How are you?
Hi, Amanda. Jonathan, we haven't met. Hello. Thanks, Rosemary. How's it going?
Yeah.
I'm gonna, as I said in my emails, I didn't bring enough for everybody, because nobody's good about telling me whether they're coming or not. So, but I do have, I don't know, 8 or 10. This is the agenda. We'll start with the agenda and the minutes. And I will start off by saying I did realize that I had misspelled William's name at the top. And I corrected that, so
That's probably it.
these are, every document that I'm passing out is stuff that you were sent.
Yeah, no, I was just trying to figure
Yeah,
out when
We
this
can
got
share.
on.
Yeah, well, we've had a request to move that up in the agenda. So we'll-
Okay, great.
Hi, Peter. How are you?
I'm good, Rosemary.
I'm good.
How are you? How's Charlie?
Good.
Oh, great.
So that's a good.
Okay, Dave Delcor, thumbs up, thumbs down. What do y'all think?
Yeah, yeah.
It's Dave, don't let him in.
Who's that? Delcor?
Yeah, don't let him in.
Really?
Don't let Dave in.
Okay.
It's an exclusive. group.
He's got it bagged, right?
Cheers. Cheers down in the
Oh, I know, and
corner.
has to
You can
stare at my
set up
head for the
behind
whole
you,
thing.
Whatever works best for you.
I guess I'll take one.
Said it was
Glad that
student.
the dispatch stuff that was up, when we had our football meetings not here. and Mike Rowe was on. Our football committee was in here, so convenient.
That's it. Oh my God, it's an earthquake. I think that's everybody.
I've got copies plus you guys sent around.
It's,
I saw it.
it needs to be printed.
I would do the
Oh, yeah.
first, the approval of the minutes, and then I would say, you know, do people mind if we read or? Yeah.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Well, the first item on our agenda today is to approve the minutes from January 25th. Are there any corrections?
Yes, the first mention of William's name, I have your last name spelling correctly, which I noticed today, so I've corrected that. So
Okay.
Move approval?
Oh, yeah.
Your second?
I'll second. With the change. Yeah,
All right, and there's been a suggestion to move the vote.
let's have a vote on that.
On the minutes.
Yeah, on approving them.
Thank you.
All
All in favor?
opposed.
say
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. All right, and we have a suggestion to move the vote on Representative Jonathan Williams flyer at the polls to the first item on the agenda. Second.
Yeah, it actually would be
Request to use the
request for
lobby.
use of the lobby.
Any objections?
To clarify, that's all the requests for use of the lobby moved to the next item?
I would recommend that we just take them all at the same time, if that's, and we don't need to, I would say we don't need to vote on it if there's consensus to adjust the agenda accordingly.
So these are all just requests for flyers and the candidates are on the ballot.
Correct.
I'm fine with that. I motion to approve.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion. Move the item up. Is there any discussion?
How about moving it up?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
There was consensus to move it. We
There was
didn't need to take
consensus.
any action on it. And Tom made the motion to approve the requests, which is the flyer from Jonathan and the selling of Girl Scout cookies.
And that's my.
Oh,
my
no,
understanding.
that,
I'm sorry, just
No,
my
I
understanding.
just a flyer.
Just a
Yeah.
flyer. Okay, cool.
And that was my understanding of what I
Yeah.
seconded, to be clear.
Okay.
It was emailed to you this morning.
It was emailed, but I do have hard copies. So hang on a
I
second.
apologize because I've designed it as a brochure.
Yeah.
It would cost
So-
money to print copies and colors.
So you have to
I've held off until
imagine
their
it
approval.
folded in a trifold.
Two sides.
Huh?
You could in fact fold it and then exercise. I would. Yeah.
They're not gonna vote on moving the agenda item. Okay, on this right now, we've got the motion to approve and now we're in discussion.
So I stated,
It's been moved. Go ahead, Michael.
no, I know,
You made
we're
the
in
motion, so
discussion.
you
Yep.
can go first.
Oh, thanks. No, I mean, typically, we've allowed this as long as the candidate isn't, sending a political message, and as long as the candidate isn't on the ballot. And typically, when our representatives or senators want to put a flag, we've always allowed this when they're just trying to inform their constituents of the work they've been doing. So that's why I would.
and ordinarily I would agree with you on something, but the policy was actually changed back in November, correct? Because before that, this all goes back to the Doyle poll, right? And I think you were probably on at that time, and me, myself included, we voted to make it so that you couldn't put a name on there of somebody that's a candidate for even a different election, because we felt at the time that it was kind of electioneering, and I'm looking at you because you were on there at the time.
Yeah, I thought there was not a long time before we actually said, this is not enforceable or not right, or how do we get around somebody who's communicating with their constituents? Doyle was soliciting as opposed to telling. I don't know if that's a distinction without a difference, but.
This is the policy that's coming around.
Yeah, the communication to constituents is, for me, a different issue. It's like why we have a franking privilege at the federal level is to tell people what I've done.
So,
And this is the controlling statutes.
Yeah.
so according to our policy, the way that I read it, you have every right to do this. It was a decision that this BCA made back in November to change that policy. I think that I wasn't here for that one. That's on me. That's my fault. I don't like the policy change. I like what we did back then. However, the policy states that you can do it. I don't like that policy, and I think that going forward, we should certainly talk about that policy again, because it does, to me, it's electioneering, maybe not at the time that you're on the ballot, but it is what it is.
Well, it's kind of both, Michael. I mean, listen, Jonathan would probably like to be reelected in a couple of years, but that's the game,
I
and
get the
so,
game. I get the
I mean,
game.
I agree with revisiting the policy, but This is, it's just informative. That's why.
I get it, I get it. And with that, you know, the fact that it is the policy is in force. I think the answer would be to actually vote. We have to approve because that's what the policy is, but I think we need to change that policy.
But
Just,
I'm looking at it and I frankly find that it is actually misses points. No, I mean, there's a section here about ending pregnancy center fraud, which is not what the bills are designed to do. And I think that this looks to me like disinformation.
That's the name of the bill. Apologies. Is that I co-sponsor?
I don't think we're here to edit Colin's question.
But
I don't know. That's one of it. I just-
But the
So,
question I would have is, would we allow someone who is not a representative to provide other information that provides different information in terms of what has been done by the representatives?
If I may, much of this is stock language that is being distributed across all 246 municipalities in the state of Vermont. And so it's gone through quite a substantive editorial and copy editing process. And so I've just made it look in a way that I think looks okay. But
Amanda.
Thank you. To respond to the sort of concerns about campaigning, we're 2 years away from another general election, or a year and 9 months away from another general election. And Representative Williams is one of the 2 state representatives representing Berry City in the legislature and has legislative updates to share. And as Councilor Bruton already said, this falls under our policy. This is exactly the kind of thing that the policy covers and that we have allowed in the past, as Councilor Levon said. So I would be in favor of.
Oh, sorry.
I was
just interrupted.
interpreting
I'm
his
sorry.
previous
Let's
comments.
let the chair identify people.
So I personally have some political issues with this. Because I feel like some of this is very partisan. And I feel like some of the things that are going on in the supermajority with our legislators kind of imposes this will upon people. Now, I think that having an update is important, but I also think that having a third of this brochure be really a publicity about Jonathan Williams and what's going on. I don't necessarily agree with this being something that we should be handing out about or after people are voted. I think that something a little more short and sweet would be more to the point, but 6 pages of information and a third of that is essentially PR stuff. That's a concern that I have. As well.
I want to just read the relevant language from statute. This is the state law. It says that, within the building containing a polling place, no campaign literature, stickers, buttons, name stamps, information on write-in candidates or other political materials that display the name of a candidate on the ballot or an organized political party, or that demonstrate support or opposition to a question on the ballot are displayed, placed, handed out, or allowed to remain. This is none of those things.
Thanks. I'm Lisa Leo. Jonathan's our representative, and the content that's in there is not unlike what I've seen VLCT issue as far as legislative activity that's happening. To me, this was a legislative update. Jonathan is our representative, and he has a third of 1 page, not 1 page. This isn't 6 pages. Telling us what he has sponsored, and it has his contact information and important bills that are currently being discussed. I don't see this as campaign material. He's not running for office. He's not on the ballot.
Madam Chair, I call the question.
Second.
I don't think we
No, it-
should shorten the conversation. Can I say something?
Well,
The non-debatable.
it's a non,
unfair.
calling the
That's
question is
fine.
non-debatable, however, it does have to pass by 2/3.
Yes, it
I think we
does.
should
So-
hear from people.
I do have a point of
I-
order.
I'm sorry, we cannot debate a call on the question, okay? So we do have to have a vote on the call to question. Hang on a second. I ask, when you ask the question, for yays and nays, if people could put their hands up and keep their hands up until I have recorded the votes.
Okay, so all in favor of the call to question, raise your hand. Or say aye.
7, 8, and I'm looking on the screen.
Okay, all those opposed to a call to question, raise your hand.
So it does pass.
Okay, now I'll raise my point of order.
No, we've,
It's actually a point of order, Dave,
yep. go ahead.
because when we looked at, one of the things that's listed here is that requests for permission to display materials must be received by the city clerk at least a week in advance of the election. I know Jonathan said that he just provided the information to us today, which is less than a week before the election.
He provided on Tuesday for the email.
And actually a month ago. when-
Which
Okay,
is,
that's fine.
Thank you.
Carol, if I
Aye.
may ask.
Question was called.
Yeah.
Aye.
yeah, we can't have any further discussion. So we have the motion is to approve the flyer. And again, I'm going to ask that people raise their hands as Tabitha calls questions so I can count.
Okay, so there's a. If you want to approve the flyer. please raise your hand.
Okay.
Okay, and those who are opposed to the flyer, raise your hand.
Thank you. It's approved.
Thank you. It wasn't too painful.
No, and I commend you all on your adherence to parliamentary procedure, something I am still learning. Very till then.
Have a nice evening, Jonathan.
Nice to meet you.
So there will be a place in the lobby near the exit doors, because one of the things we do ask people to do is not bring lobby materials into the polling place with them. So on their way out, they'll be able to pick up copies. So there'll be a place.
Thank you all very much.
Right.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
It's an informational question, actually. Michael said we just changed the policy in November.
The policy that you have in front of you is
Yeah.
what was amended and approved in November. I'd have to look back to see what the change
Okay,
is.
my memory was that Tommy or I can't remember who, and here's what been going on, and this is 4 years ago, and so
You did.
Yeah.
it's not clear that the revision in November went back to the Doyle decision. It must have been a halfway point, because Tommy and I have done this. Okay, we agree.
Bring back the Doyle poll, Peter.
Yeah, really.
That would be great, actually.
Poor Bill, he's still hanging
No,
on.
there's that. Yeah, we'll leave that one where it is. So we'll move on to
So
the
the
next.
next item is to approve the workers.
So, here are again, forgive me for not having enough hard copies for everybody. We're looking at page 2 of 2, which is the populated side. These are God bless the 80 people that are on my election worker list and give of their time every election to come in and work. We are able to, by statute, we are able to appoint and swear in non-DCA election workers, and that's what we're doing here. So Ivana and Haley, you've got the document in front of you. It's okay, good. So we're looking at the side that, like I said, is populated, says poll workers and has the first, second, and third shift list started with Gary Noakes for the first shift. You'll see there's a gap. This doesn't show up on Ivana and Haley, your list. But William Orr, who was in the first shift, called me today and had to back out so that his slot is open. He was scheduled to work the first shift as one of the tabulator people, so. Otherwise, these are the non-BCA names that I bring forward for your approval.
I'll move it.
Second.
Do we have a move in a second? No, we voted.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a move in a second for the list of non-BCA workers. All those in favor? say
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed.
Did you get a replacement yet?
Not yet.
Okay, if it
Um,
doesn't happen, you can count on it.
Well, that's what I was going to discuss as we talk about BCA people, to see whether there are BCA people that might be, somebody who might be available to fill it. So this is the list, and again, Haley and Ivana, I emailed this out late this afternoon. This is when I put out the call to BCA members as to who might be available to work. This is the list of people who responded, identifying the shifts that they would be able to work. So this doesn't mean this is who's signed up for these shifts, because I don't need as many people as we have for shift 1 and 2, and I desperately need more people for shift 3. So I would say in shift 1, is there anybody that's listed on shift 1 that would be available to move to 3? Possibly, or who's listed on shift 2 that would be available to move to 3?
I could just do.
Okay, that's a possibility. Yes, just so you know, working shift 3 means staying till the bitter end.
I'm a hard worker. man.
I know
I'm a
you
quick
are.
learner.
Patty, am I adding you to shift 3 also?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. And is there somebody in shift 1 that, rather than working at the Board of Civil Authority table, might be interested in working at the with the tabulators? Thank you, because you've been trained.
I was just- It felt like the right fit there, so.
Yes,
I'd be happy to do
yes,
that.
so that's fabulous. So that leaves us with 3 for shift 1, which is great. Michael and Ivana and Tom for shift 1. And Ivana, since we've got you for shift 1, we'll cross you off for shift 2. And so we've got the Michael Deering, Karen Lozon, William Toberg, and Tabitha for shift 2. We only need 3. Happy to have all 4 of you there, but if there's one of you who would, Michael, you've already done 1 shift, if you want to. Or
I'll move over to 3 and then you won't have to work.
Or it could be Dana.
nothing like counting write-ins
Hey, there you
to,
go.
keep that spark going.
There you go.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm fine on Tuesday. We don't have a company.
All right, so we'll leave
Dana.
Karen, so Karen will move you over. Because having 4 people on shift 3 is actually not a bad thing, because that then rolls into the 4th shift, which is,
Okay, so I'll do shift 3.
so we're keeping you for shift 2. So for shift 2, we've got Michael Deering, William Toborg, Tabitha Tant. Okay, Tabitha Tant, I'm sorry, I can't say it without going, who the hell is that? For shift 3, we've got Lisa, Tom, Patty, and Karen. And for shift 4, which is the big one, because it's not gonna have extra bodies to do the to do counting. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if we, Amanda, I don't think we'll need you. So if we have the others, if we have Lisa, Haley, William, Tess, Tabitha, and Tom, the Ts, that'll give us a good chunk of people, and an even number of people to divvy up to do the write-ins. So. Everybody got that? You want me to repeat it? Everybody cool? Thank
Cool.
you.
But Carol, you will be updating it by Sunday.
Oh, yes, yes. I will send it out tomorrow with updates. So, thank you. On the back side, I did send around in one of my emails, one of the fun things about the Career Center is commingling ballots from 18 different communities. That has to happen here. We will be Board of Civil Authority members from the 15 other sending towns besides Berry City, Berrytown, and Montpelier will be bringing their ballots to Alumni Hall on Wednesday, Thursday, and the following Monday. And it would be nice to have one BCA member available to help. They, of course, will be sending their BCA members, and just having another person available to help would be great. Ivana has said she's available on Monday. Thank you, Ivana.
Well, actually, I said Friday.
Oh, Friday the 10th. Okay,
Yes.
I could only do Monday, so.
okay. You okay? That's
Yes,
just-
yeah, we don't, yeah.
You don't
we're
need
in
the
business
vacation.
until Tuesday.
Okay, so Peter on Monday, Ivana on Friday, and were you about to leap into Thursday? Fabulous.
Great.
All right, wonderful. Again, this will all be on the schedule that I send around tomorrow.
Thanks.
And so what we usually do, just to, to dot our i's and cross our t's, is we have the board actually approve that slate. So
So all those in favor?
we need a motion.
We need a
So-
motion.
So,
For a second. or whatever.
I'm gonna give it to William and Tom.
I think Peter had it.
Okay, I'm gonna give it to Peter and Tom. Don't fight over it, guys.
Okay, so all those in favor of approving?
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed?
Thank you.
So the next item is discussing the annual meeting election procedures.
Yeah, just, we're, one of the things that we have done the last few years because of COVID, and we're going to continue to do it because it really seems to work well and is less confusing to the voters, is rather than have 3 different check-in tables, one for each ward, we've got one check-in table. Everybody goes to the same check-in table, 2 tables, one for last name A through K, and then the other last name L through Z. And the book indicates what ward they're in, so that when they check in, then the election workers give them the right ballots for their ward, and the ballot for the Career Center. So it's one flow around the auditorium, and that actually has worked really well. Up to this point in time, I can't tell you how many times people walk in the door and go, I don't know what ward I'm in, and I just, so it works very well. So we're gonna continue that pattern. Everybody's gonna come in on the right, like we have the last few years. They will check in, they'll get their ballots, they will continue to the line of voting booths along the back side of the auditorium, and then around to the tabulators. We are going to have 4 tabulators, so that we make sure that we're getting specific, I mean, we always got specific ward numbers, but we'll be getting specific ward numbers per tabulator, per tape, which makes Michael happy, and it's all about keeping Michael happy. So there will be a tabulator for Ward 1 ballots, a tabulator for Ward 3 ballots, Ward 1. There's a number in the middle there too. And then there will be the tabulator for the Career Center ballot. And then people will exit. just so you know what the process is with the Career Center ballots, because we're not allowed to know what Berry City's independent results are. The whole point behind commingling the ballots is that we need to know the results school district wide. At the end of the night, that tabulator will get shut off. We will make a note, we will have a log, we will make a note of how many ballots were fed into it. We will pull Berry City's ballots out and tally the write-ins, bag them up, they'll go to the vault. But the machine will just get turned off. It won't have the election ended. It'll get turned off, it'll get stored under lock and key, and then it will come back out on Thursday for the commingling process, and more ballots will be fed into it. So we won't know which community had what
Yeah.
for totals.
Wow, that's terrible. I mean, it's a terrible process, and I know that we're
I've
not here
been
to,
fighting it for
that,
over a
and it
year.
gives no representation for our community to give an idea of where we stand on something that, you know, we are so affected by.
Well, that was one of
So
my
frustrating.
arguments to the board was, you know, they talked about creating, you know, a community, a homogeneous, you know, and I said, yeah, but what you're losing is the opportunity to know where you haven't made your case, where you need to do more outreach. But that didn't. So what's happening is Berry Town is doing the same thing as us. They have a tabulator. You may have read about it in the newspaper. They have a tabulator that has been programmed to just take the Career Center ballots. At the end of the night on Tuesday, they will shut that tabulator off. They will bring it with them to the on Thursday. We will put it, you know, put it on a ballot box, turn it on. We'll have you know, they'll have a log that says it had this many ballots and now it needs to have that many ballots that morning. So that gives us 2 tabulators to use for all these other communities. Montpelier is doing the same thing. So the 3 biggest communities will have already been fed into
Oh,
the
that helps,
tabulators.
Yeah.
So we're hoping that that helps, because these new tabulators are considerably slower than the old ones. And so we were really concerned about how much time this was going to take. So by having 3 tabulators, all of which have already tallied the largest communities, we're hoping that it goes fairly smoothly. So
How long would you anticipate one of the shifts are going to be?
I,
Depends on how many
6
people
hours
go.
maybe. 6, yeah, that's
Trying to
kind
gauge
of, that's
it.
kind of the hope.
How long I'm gonna be
Yeah.
there for,
Yeah,
which is fine.
so,
You may have mentioned this, I assume this is the right item to ask, I just wondered. So you've received ballots, I assume, from folks that have voted.
Yep.
Okay, so just kind of walk me through, if you don't mind, I'm.
Yeah, yeah.
new to this thing. Where are those now, and then where are they put on the day of the election, and are they separated by their ward, and then, how does that all work?
So we have mailed out a little over 500, well, we're probably pushing 550 absentee ballots have been mailed out to date. We've received just under 300 of them back. As they come back, they all get data entered into the election management system. People can actually go in and track their ballot when it got mailed to them, when we received it back. And then they're kept under lock and key. They are divided by ward. We have all the Ward 1 receives back, the Ward 2, the Ward 3. At the polls, they will all come to the polls. And we have 2 election workers. If you look on the schedule of election workers, there are 2 that are listed as absentees. There's a process laid out in statute that says that one of them slits the envelope open and then turns it upside down and passes it to the next person, so that the next person who is pulling the ballot out of the envelope cannot read the name on the front of the ballot, so that we're keeping anonymity over the votes. That separates the ballots from the envelope. There will be a stack of folded ballots on the table. Once they have emptied a stack of envelopes, those two people will then work from what is now an anonymous stack of ballots. They will unfold them and feed them into the tabulators. State law says that all ballots, including absentee ballots, must be counted before the election is closed. So that means that we will make sure to feed every absentee ballot into the tabulators before we close the elections. That doesn't mean close the polls, because even though the polls close at 7, we may still be finishing up processing the ballots.
So a follow-up question.
Yeah.
Is there a breakdown or a number of how many absentee ballots were, presented?
Yes, well, I gave you the numbers. There
Okay.
will be a list, both posted on the bulletin board in the lobby and at my place at the polls. And we will continue to, my guess is that we'll receive another 150 that day, people who will bring their absentee ballots with them to the polls. Now, once the ballots are processed, they're indistinguishable.
Right.
A ballot put in the tabulator is a ballot put in the tabulator, whether it's voted in person or voted absentee. However, the entrance checklist marks whether someone has voted absentee or voted at the polls. So that information is captured.
So will they be divided by ward before they're open? or-
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so the people processing the absentee ballots, they'll do all the Ward 1s, then they'll do all the Ward 2s, then they'll do all the Ward 3s. Now, if the ones that come in through the course of the day are just processed as they're received. So.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any more discussion?
I shared with all of you the rules which just get posted at the policies, the BCA policies, which do get posted at the on the bulletin board in the lobby. The lobby bulletin board has a whole bunch of stuff that's required. It has copies of the warnings, it has copies of the sample ballots, it has information about the voters' bill of rights and how to fill in your ballot. It has a copy of all the streets in the city with their wards. So if somebody does want to look up their ward, they can look it up by their street address. There's a whole bunch of things that have to be posted on that public bulletin board in the lobby. So, yeah, that's it.
So review changes to the voter checklist.
Yes, that's the long list that I emailed out. And as I said in my email, I would only have a few copies because it's fairly long. So this is just the list of changes. This is one of the requirements. We're required by statute to provide the BCA within,
I just want to.
it's 5 or 7 or 10 days, I can't quote it right off the top of my head. Before an election, we're required to provide you with the list. That's all the statute says. It doesn't say anything about it has to be accepted or approved or anything. We're only required to provide it. And as I put in the email to you, this is pulled out of the statewide election management system. I gave you some information about what the different status categories are. The one that is most frustrating to me, of course, is other, because it doesn't, it could be anything from, you added a period after the middle initial and it, or you changed their address, or it doesn't distinguish any of that, but it does essentially mean that the change was relatively de minimis, nothing overly significant. So we share this list every election. This year, because it's an even numbered year, during the summer, we will do a review of the entire 6,000 people on the voter checklist to do the challenge process, which is done every odd numbered year. It's an opportunity for us to look at, do you know that Sam Jones has moved out of state, but is still on our voter checklist? There's then a process to send a letter, to, try to reach out and find out whether they're still in the area or not. That changes their status from active to what's referred to as challenged, which is a term that drives me nuts. I don't know why we don't just say inactive. Once a voter is challenged, that doesn't remove them from the checklist. They can still reactivate themselves by signing an affidavit at the polls or in advance of coming to the polls. It just changes their status, and if they remain in that challenge status through 2 general election cycles, then they're removed from the checklist. So it helps us manage the checklist.
How do I get back on the checklist?
They re-register.
Which they can do at the BCA table. but-
Yeah, they can do it at the polls. So, yeah. Or next time they register, or next time they renew their driver's license. So,
So I was looking at the list and I saw Patricia Murray, which the name for some reason didn't ring a bell. Or is that supposed to be Lewis? Because Mr. Murray passed. And it's on the death side, death notice, but this is coming from the state, so it doesn't matter, never mind.
If anybody sees any names on there that they have any questions about, let me know. I will, I'm building a list for the challenge letters that we send out this summer. So, happy to, but it's amazing, the big group of ones that are purged here, that are on the list as purged, from having been challenged and not voted in the last 2 general elections. These are people that got challenge letters back in 17, I think. So it takes a while to get off the system. And I saw some names on there that I was like, finally,
I saw Connor Social.
No, well, and the Kaminsky's,
Yes.
Emily and Matt Kaminsky, who have been gone a long time, but we don't have the authority to just remove people.
Yeah.
So we have to go through the process. So I have presented it to y'all.
Noted. Thank you.
All right, so the next item on the agenda is the request to use the lobby for the sale of Girl Scout cookies. Any discussion?
Move to deny.
Second,
I just struggle with it. I mean, if it were, with all due respect, the Barry Democrats or the Barry Republicans, and we wanted to sell scarves or gloves, I guarantee you somebody would have checked. And when you're selling things, it's not the way I feel about it. And I appreciate the Girl Scouts. I appreciate Sam's work and, working with those young ladies, but there's a lot more of a chance for a dialogue. And if someone was walking into the polls and I'm standing there and I say, well, that city budget sucked, there could be some voter influence inferred. And I think it's just best to, if flyers are fine, but I think when you get into selling things, there's too much chance for dialogue that could possibly influence a voter.
Amanda.
May I just clarify my understanding? Is this at the exit?
Yes, yeah, all materials are at the
But the
exit.
problem is you can't, which exit?
The exit from the auditorium. So people come in, they go all the way around, and then they're headed out the exit door. And that's where
On the far side or still the lobby? The
it
main
still
end?
goes out onto the main stairwell.
Right,
But
so,
it's as you're facing the building, it's the 2 furthest left doors as opposed to the 2 furthest right doors, which are the entrance doors.
but somebody coming in could still be there.
Yeah, I mean, it's not completely blocked from one side to the other. but-
So, and once you come in, you could get confused and think, I want a snack while I vote. It's just not something we've done because we haven't encouraged, dialogue. Flyers are one thing, canned goods are one, where there's not likely to be a dialogue. It's just, you're dropping canned goods, and I just think once you go down that road, okay, where do you draw the line? If there's a group that you don't necessarily who's, maybe a group that absolutely tried, not that, I'm not saying Democrats or Republicans, but, you've got a group that had vapor and they want to sell whatever, gum. Some would object and they say, look, they're, and even if they said, and I'm not saying that Sam does, but it's just not something we've allowed. And I think once you start, if we want to, fine, go down the road, but I'm just worried about where you get to draw that line and whether we start drawing that line. And I think once you say yes, then you have no right to draw a line with anyone, just because then it's just your opinion of them.
Michael, do you?
So my opinion of this is similar to you, Councilor Lozon, where do we draw the line? Because for me, I see this opportunity and I wear a BYSA football sweatshirt. I want to get my organization in there and I want to sell stuff because it's to people that are going to come and buy things. So I kind of wonder whether we go down that road. And then if we do go down that road, where do we draw the line? And that's really my ethical concern as a Board of Civil Authority members. Where do we draw the line? Putting information out there about what's going on in our local city, state government is one thing, but when we're potentially garnering one organization over another, you kind of become into a population match at some point, because when you have multiple organizations fighting for one spot to be at the polls, I think that's a road that we don't want to get into. And that's just my personal thought on both aspects of it.
Michael, do you?
So I'm gonna read policy that we read earlier to approve Mr. Williams' campaign material, in my opinion. Prohibits the following in the designated polling place: campaign literature, stickers, buttons, name stamps, information on writing candidates and other political materials, display the name of candidate on the ballot of an organized political, I don't really know this. But the point is that we've already started going down that road of accepting things. So, but this is the reason why we should have a policy that prevents all
And I
of
don't
that.
disagree. Again, my concern is, what if it was a candidate who was on the ballot and they happened to be a Girl Scout troop leader? And they said, well, I'm just selling Girl Scout. And as a matter of fact, I'll put up a sign saying, please do not discuss political issues with me. But they're there. People are.
Amanda?
I might suggest that there is some nuance in there, that the answer to where do you draw the line is always you draw the line somewhere. And you can choose where to draw that line. I think the policy covers political speech, which would cover a lot of VPRG. I don't feel comfortable having an organization like that. I would argue that the Girl Scouts are a nonpartisan organization. They would be talking to people about cookies at the exit, presumably after they voted, if there is the potential that someone could see them from 20 feet away and engage in conversation, but the voting is finished. They're on their way out. They're getting something for the way home. I would also note that not in the recent past, but in the historic past, there have been bake sales and other things at the polls in Berry City. I actually did a whole research project on the types of food they advertised at the bake sales to show the way food in Berry moved and tracked. So it has happened, again, in the more distant past. I don't know that we're really looking at 75 years ago as a useful comparison, but it has happened. I mean, I'm more or less neutral on this. I can certainly understand the argument of a slippery slope, but this feels to me, if we're going to draw the line, I would absolutely support drawing the line at anything that advocated for something, sales of something that took a position, sales of something from an organization that advocated for things that appear on the ballot, to me feel absolutely out. But this feels both nonpartisan, neutral, and advocacy.
Well, I'm thinking, one, is this something that we would be doing for every election? And under those, and the other thing is that, how would you feel if you had a different organization, say the St. Monica, St. Michael School, selling something there, or the Knights of Columbus? Organizations that are nonpartisan in nature, but I don't have a problem if the Girl Scouts want to set up outside where the candidates are, so that they can sell to people there. But being actually inside the building, I think, as you said, that's, if we're going to allow the Girl Scouts this time, next time, we may be asked to allow. Yeah, CareNet, for example. CareNet.
It's the one that people protest.
Oh, well. If you pass this one, I'd be okay with, well, if you pass this one, I will be selling cookies in March of 2024, so put me on the list.
Can he bake?
I'm not, yeah.
Oh,
I'm not
I can-
making cookies.
Yeah, I can bake.
They aren't here for election.
Sorry.
You can sell them with me.
Yeah, well, thank you. I'm persuaded that, of course, the statute is referred to earlier, is prescriptive in that it refuses, it says the clerk is not to allow certain. It doesn't say anything what's permitted. This says what's permitted, but it says may, and we have to vote on it. So it is a decision to be made, obviously. And I am persuaded that we shouldn't go down the road of having what is pseudo commerce going on in the building. I don't even think it should be outside the polling place. So I'm going to vote no.
Any further discussion?
Just, I'm looking at the screen, just making sure that we're not forgetting that
Forgetting them on the.
Ivana and Haley are here.
So, point of order, you can't make a motion in the negative, so it would be, somebody has to make a motion to approve it,
Or table it.
or just.
You
Well,
can't-
that's-
You can make a motion to deny.
It's
Oh, well,
not,
yes, you can
it's
make- I'm
not
so
good
sorry.
form. You can, but typically the thought is that motions should be in the affirmative and then you vote against them. But yours is acceptable.
Oh, it's fine. I don't care. Me
Can I
too.
table the motion until the next BCA meeting?
No, I'm sorry. I think it's important that y'all take a stand and make a decision.
So if the motion was denied, you vote the negative.
Is there a second?
I
So, yes,
second it.
yes.
Okay, William seconded.
Yeah. So the motion is to deny the request. So a yes would deny the request.
So all those in favor of denying the request to have the Girl Scouts at the polls, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed to denying the request to have the Girl Scouts at the polls, say no. The request has been denied.
Now there goes my bake sale in 24.
So.
Denying.
I'm really feeling uncomfortable about how, I'm gonna say no.
Is there some kind of time limit after which, people can vote? All right,
I never actually said anything.
right, silence is consent.
Well, I know, but I was.
So, yeah.
Right. So is there any new business? Any other business?
Let's all be prepared to do this again in a couple months, so,
I'll be able to help with the polls at that time.
it's. We're, depending on what the results are for various things,
No.
we may be doing this again in a couple months, so.
And at that time, maybe other organizations will have requests.
Would that be 2 months, like around May?
Traditionally, we've done it on the same date as Berry Towns, because Berry Towns town meeting is the second Tuesday in May.
Mhm.
We've done it kind of a regular that same day. Fortunately, the auditorium isn't available this year, so.
Move to adjourn.
All right, we're all set. Thank you, Ivana. Thank you, Haley. See you on Tuesday.
Night, guys.
Thank you
What do I
very
need to
much.
do?
It's always wonderful to see you.
Just hit end, will that kill them off? Carol,
Excuse me?
end? Does that do it?
Yes. Yep.
End meeting.